Hi, I'm Max Keiser, and this is the Keiser Report with Stacey Herbert. I say Max Keiser because we are in Amsterdam, and that's the way they say it here in Amsterdam. Max Keiser. We're in Vondel Park, where, of course, it's legal to have sex, but you must keep your dog on a leash. Stacey?
Indeed. So we'll try to blur out any images of sex taking that you might see in the background here. But we are in Amsterdam, and I have a headline here because we're here for a Bitcoin conference, and it's a tweet from Barry Silbert. Negative interest rates, efforts to ban cash, mobile growth, capital controls, currency wars. I couldn't dream of a more bullish case for Bitcoin.
Look, here's a public park. It's part of the public domain. Bitcoin is part of the public encrypted domain. This is what Satoshi Nakamoto had in mind when he created Bitcoin. It's money that can be used in the public encrypted domain to protect against the scoundrels, to protect against private blockchains like Blythe Masters, to protect against the banksters who want to seize cash. They want to go negative interest rates. They want to reduce the 500 euro note, the $100 bill, because they want to reduce the public domain. They want to reduce the rights. They want to keep us in cages. Bitcoin is the opposite of that. This is the prime time for Bitcoin. This is why it's going to make new all-time highs in the very near future. Yes,
in fact, as we talk about the war on cash, that's a big topic. We've seen that over the since we've been here. We saw that why Larry Summers wants to take away the $100 bill. So Larry Summers, who was on the Economic Council of Advisors to President Obama, of course, he is now joining the war on cash. We've seen that from the ECB, and they're saying, oh, we should get rid of the 500 euro note. In the UK, we're seeing the former chief executive of Standard Chartered. He's saying that we should get rid of the 50-pound note. So there's a war on cash going on. They're saying it's because they want to stop terrorism. They're saying because they want to stop money laundering. But as we've seen over and over, the banks are the ones that are involved in that anyway. So here there's a war on cash, the ultimate in privacy, the ultimate in private transactions. If you want to pay for an encounter here in Vondel Park, you might want to keep it private.
Look, Larry Summers is part of the prison industrial complex. He's part of the prison industrial monetary policy complex, where you've got private prison operators looking to lock everybody up. You've got NSA and GCHQ looking to spy on everyone 24/7. Then you've got Larry Summers and the monetary conglomerates who are looking to essentially remove economic sovereignty, to destroy that domain that encourages free trade. And without free trade, there is no capitalism. There is no freedom without free trade.
Well, we're going to also talk about, in the future episode, we're going to talk about negative deposit rates and how that's encouraging a move to cryptocurrencies, according to the Bank of International Settlements. But, you know, in the few minutes here, because we're going to cut to an interview that you're going to do momentarily in Vondel Park with Ancilla Tilia, who is a privacy activist here and part of the Pirate Party. But one of the things you're going to talk to her about, what Amsterdam is very important, there's a big referendum coming up on the EU association agreement with Ukraine. And I wanted to quickly fill everybody in on that, on the background of what this is, before you start your interview with Ancilla Tilia. And the Wikipedia on it is called Dutch-Ukraine European Union Association Agreement Referendum, and it's going to take place on April 6th, not too far away. And the question will be, it's a simple question, are you for or against the Approval Act of the Association Agreement between the European Union and Ukraine? So, if you recall, part of the EU Association Agreement, Yanukovych was actually overthrown because he didn't want to sign this. And one of the reasons that he didn't sign it, his own economic advisors said it would actually cost them billions of dollars because their number one export market is Russia. And so the tariffs and the cost of joining an EU association agreement might impact the Ukraine economy. I'll read you what the actual Wikipedia says about what this is. The Ukraine-European Union Association Agreement is a treaty between the EU, Euratom, which I didn't know existed, but it's the Nuclear Association of Europe, there are 28 member states in Ukraine, establishes a political and economic association between the parties. The parties committed to cooperate and converge economic policy, legislation, and regulation across a broad range of areas, including equal rights for workers, steps towards visa-free movements of people, the exchange of information and staff in the area of justice, the modernization of Ukraine's energy infrastructure, and access to the European Investment Bank. The agreement furthermore establishes a deep and comprehensive free trade area between the parties. So that's what the EU Association Agreement is.
All right. Is it one of these fake trade deals?
Well, we don't know. Most trade deals,
like NAFTA, CAFTA, these types
TPP,
of... TPP, they talk about free trade, but it's really just about enslavement.
Well, as we've seen in the NAFTA and all those other sort of agreements, what it does is it consolidates the power of oligarchies or big giant corporations rather than small local corporations and companies and SMEs. So it often...
It's not about free trade. That's why these same organizations are against Bitcoin, because Bitcoin encourages free trade, which encourages freedom.
Well, you're going to talk more to Ancilla Tilia about that, and we'll see what the no vote is backing and what the yes vote is. Right now, the no vote has 60% of the vote in polling. We don't know until April 6th what will happen.
My opinion may be changed based on this interview. We'll see what goes down with our interview. So let's go right to that interview right now. All right, yes, as promised. And Ancilla Tilia, welcome to Keiser Report.
Thank you.
First of all, I wanted to ask you about these Stroop waffles.
Oh, they're great.
Is this pretty much what, do you get these as a baby and you kind of grow up on these?
We do. You put the thing is, you put them on hot tea and you put them on the thing and then it melts, the caramel. It's really good.
Oh, wow. We're going to talk about a few different topics here. Now, the Dutch-Ukraine European Union Association Agreement, we talked about it in the, just a moment ago. It's the referendum. Just briefly describe what it is, if you can.
Well, the referendum is something set up by what you could say is the Dutch people. A Dutch weblog called Geen Stijl, No Style has taken the initiative to put up this referendum about the association agreement because they felt that we supposedly live in a democracy and we should have a democratic vote on it.
Now, as a Pirate Party member, correct me if I'm wrong, but your position as a Pirate Party is somewhat neutral on all this, right?
We are neutral on it because we feel that it's more important for people to inform themselves rather than telling them what to vote. So what we've done is we've put up a wiki page, a Pirate Party wiki page, especially for the referendum, where we answer all questions and we link to all the information that's out there. And people can even put in their own information, suggest some info that's maybe missing.
What's the association between Dutch and the Ukraine?
Well, right now they're not part of the EU, and that is one of the hot topics if this association agreement is moving the Ukraine towards the EU, or if that has nothing to do with it. And the positions on both sides are opposite almost. Like one party is saying, the no camp is saying, well, this is a first step towards an EU agreement, and the yes vote is saying it's the first step towards an EU agreement, and the no camp is exactly the right.
But
I'm screwed up. I'm sorry.
It's a bit of a poison chalice. I mean, who would want to? The Ukraine. If you bring that in to the EU, I mean, you're bringing a lot of baggage there. It's a pretty hot topic. I mean, there's a lot of, it's almost the front of a new Cold War. I mean, so is that part of the debate?
Well, I think that the Dutch sentiment that's being played on right now is that Putin is a very evil man, and we shouldn't do anything in fear of him. That is kind of the Dutch sentiment that's playing up right now. There's also the MH17 matter that's still completely unresolved, but that's definitely being used as somewhat of like a straw man to say like, hey, we should really help these Ukrainians distance themselves from Russia. And that's kind of a funny argument because it's still unresolved, like what even happened.
How protected are the Dutch people from that kind of propaganda? Because clearly those talking points are pretty nonsensical. So did the Dutch have a good balanced media, or is it like the US or the UK where they're fed a steady drip of US written propaganda?
One of the reasons why I'm even talking to you is because we feel that our media is definitely taking a certain approach to it. There's a couple of journalists who are doing like a really excellent job. There's the weblog 9 to 5. Of course, there's the weblog Geen Stijl, who's doing some good investigation work. All the other stuff is there's a lot of what you could say are false arguments, and that's exactly the reason why we've put up this wiki page with the Pirate Party and why we're like asking people to inform themselves, because we can't really look towards the media to give us a clear picture. There's so many different stories and like even like false information. So what we've decided to do with the Pirate Party is have an information campaign instead of a disinformation campaign, where we're saying, listen guys, we're not going to feed you our opinion like everybody else is doing. Here is the Wikipedia page, and here's all the information. You can click on everything. You can follow all these links. You can here's like a clear questions and answers sort of thing. Here's this party's point of view.
And what's
here's
the response
government
been so far? Is it getting traction, or do you get a lot of response?
Well, I'm talking to you right now. No.
I'm obviously after this interview, and you know, stroopwafels for everyone to go to this page. Can you guarantee that? A
Yeah.
free stroopwafel? No.
Well, can I just plug it for a moment? Would that be okay?
Please. We have a minute, and then we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back after the break. If you can stay with us, is that okay?
I absolutely can.
Okay, so do the plug, and then we'll take a break. What is the plug?
So if you want to have more information, we're also asking everybody in Europe, because this is a European association agreement. We would like to ask everybody to put in their information that might be lacking from our page. The website is dutchvote.eu.
All right, fantastic. We'll go to a break with Ancilla, and I can just say Ancilla. Is that correct? It's
Yeah.
like that's it. I don't need anything else. It's just Ancilla.
There's kind of only one, so yeah.
All right, fantastic. The one and only Ancilla right after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. We're in Vondel Park, and I'm with Ancilla.
Ancilla.
Ancilla Tilia, who is, of course, one of the rising stars. Maybe star's not the right word, but a very well-known voice in kind of the political scene, and very now associated with the Pirate Party, which we're going to talk about in a second. Just to finish up on the Dutch-Ukraine European Union Association Agreement referendum, the Pirate Party is trying to get as much information out there as possible.
Yeah.
So just to follow up a little bit on this, so if you can maybe give us 3 of the bullet points on the pro side and the con side, so people get an idea of what are the dimensions of the discussion.
Well, it's funny because it almost appears to me that there's a campaign going on for people to not inform themselves. So there's being said that the association agreement is very boring, don't read it, it's full of like law, language, all that stuff. So most of the points where that are being pushed for either vote are quite emotional arguments. So
do people understand that this is like a George Soros pet project to get the Netherlands wrapped up in Ukraine so he can work out his frustrations and his own inner turmoil and psychological baggage? I mean, do they know at least that this is a George Soros project to nowhere? I mean, haven't we had enough of Soros? I mean, what? Do they know that at least?
It's funny that you should say that, because I think up to like 2 weeks ago, the name Soros did not come up. Like, people don't even know who he is. The Open Society Foundation is very unknown here. Obviously, he has his hands in all sorts of stuff.
Okay, you're neutral. But what are from a neutral perspective, what are the 3 points that are for the agreement, as far as you can understand?
From a neutral point of view,
what are neutral point, your observation? What are the 3 pro?
Well, help the poor Ukrainians.
Help poor Ukrainians. Okay, what's number 2?
Make money, because the soil in Ukraine is supposed to be very fertile.
Okay, make money with the good soil. Number 3.
Don't be a douche.
Don't be a douche. Okay, that's number 3.
Yeah.
So now on the con side, the negative side, right? I would say immediately on the soil front.
Yeah.
You know that Ukraine, you had that coup from Victoria Nuland.
Yeah.
Her husband is
another name that you would never see in Dutch mainstream media. Funny how that goes,
Well,
isn't it?
we're going to bust it loose here in the Netherlands. After this is done, no one's going to want anything to do with this hokey agreement.
But yeah, I
You
mean,
mentioned soil.
soil.
I'm talking about soil.
Go ahead.
Let me say what I have to say about soil. The Ukraine's got awesome soil. And you got Victoria Nuland, who did that coup. Her husband is a lobbyist for Monsanto. And they want to put in genetically modified seeds into Ukraine, which is right on the border of Russia. And Russia said, you know, we don't want genetically modified seeds because it's poisonous, it's carcinogenic. So did the people understand that?
Well, it's more importantly, it's patented. And I think most people agree that that is a bit fishy. You can't go out and patent nature.
Well, they have Terminator seeds. These seeds do not reproduce. So you have to buy new ones every single year. Thousands of farmers in India commit suicide every year.
Yeah, it's a subscription. Yeah.
Okay. So that
so
sounds
this
like
is
a pretty heavy negative.
Yeah, this is a negative.
Why would the Netherlands? It's beautiful here. You got the tulips, you got the flowers, you got the bees. Yeah,
it's hardly being discussed. That is not being discussed whatsoever.
Why? Because the media is bankrupt, it's corrupt, it's no good, it's shallow. Is the media any good in Netherlands, or is it all just conservative claptrap, agitprop nonsense spoon-fed from the U.S. State Department?
That's your words, not mine, but I think
those are my words. What do you say?
I say we've collectively agreed not to mention certain words, phrases, names.
And that comes under the rubric of what? Conservatism?
That is...
or misinformationism? How do they get away
you know
with
what?
it?
You know what I would call it?
You can touch me. Go ahead. Anytime.
I would call it ignorance. That's what I would call it.
Okay, ignorance. But where does that come from? In other words, my point is...
I think we blindly trust our government. We have such a long history of our government being the good guys. And I see this, I've actually ranted about this propaganda on Twitter. Like, you actively see this in Dutch media where the message is being pushed, we were always the good guys.
Wait a minute. If I walk around the Amsterdam, I see little brass plaques.
Yeah, but that was not our fault.
On the street, where the government sent nice Dutch Jews to frickin' Auschwitz. That's not, the government was not nice.
No, look, that was not us.
That's the government.
That's the poor us who were subjected to those awful, horrible Germans.
But the collaborators inside the government are well known and well talked about. And it's not very, you still have the living remembrances of this.
Unfortunately, that is being forgotten. And this idea that Dutch people, including me for the longest time, had in their head was, we've always been the good guys, we can trust our government has always been a correct, proper, uncorrupt government, and that idea is still very much alive.
Fair enough. So let's kind of move on and talk a little bit about the Pirate Party, because you really have focused your attentions on this idea of privacy in related matters, which includes cash, and then that's how you get into the crypto.
Yeah.
But you've become a huge advocate for privacy. And when we talk about the state, we're talking about this trend of states to invade privacy, to become the surveillance, 24-hour surveillance, et cetera. So can you talk a little bit about your work in this area promoting the privacy rights?
Right. Well, there's different types of privacy. There's privacy from other individuals, like, say, one of the camera guys likes me a lot. He wants to stalk me home, and I'd like to not have him know where I live and what my phone number is and all that.
Just as a point of reference, this is kind of where you've coming into this because you have had that experience in the past.
I have totally had that experience.
You've had a stalking...
Not this particular camera guy.
Not that cameraman.
But other people
speaking.
have invaded my safe space.
Okay, and this made you very aware of the issue, and now you've become...
It makes you realize like how vulnerable you are as an individual and how the information that's out there about you can be abused by people who don't have your best interests at heart. So there's a privacy from a point of view of individuals towards each other. There's privacy protecting yourself against companies who want to sell your data. And there's privacy towards almighty government, so that at the point where the government goes corrupt, you can actually organize yourself, you can get information, you can gather, you can inform yourself without the government having their all-seeing eye in everything.
Yeah, not to belabor this Nazi point again, but in this...
We didn't have anything to do with that. Listen,
in this
we
town,
were the victims of those
finish.
awful, awful Germans.
Let me say that when the Germans came in, they went to the municipal governments and the central government who had all the surveillance information on all citizens. They knew where everybody lived.
They had a lot of data.
Yeah.
You have
data, and they knew, like, okay, here's the neighborhood with all the Jews, essentially.
Yeah.
And so isn't that a risk that when you have the government collect all this data, if the government, which everyone thinks is great at the moment, and there's a new election because let's say there's a big economic crisis and the world falls apart again, and you have a new government and they're more fascist, then isn't it a risk that have all this data centralized by the government? You've already had this experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have no great answer for you why it is that Dutch people don't, or a lot of European citizens even, don't seem to realize how important their fundamental rights. Their fundamental rights written down in our Constitution and by the United Nations, and like in every democracy in the world, privacy is ingrained in like the basic rights, the basic human rights. Not even citizen rights, but human rights.
Okay, the way that they're getting around this is through playing the terror card. And when you see things like in Paris recently, that slaughter that happened, and you have jihadists, and you have terrorism, this is the card the government's playing. They need to protect you from these terrorists. Are the Dutch people buying into that wholesale? Or are they without any questioning?
I think more and more people are starting to realize that yes, there's scary things going on, but maybe giving the government a free pass might not be the best answer to that.
And so the Pirate Party is gaining tremendously in countries like Iceland, where Brigitte Jonsdottir, who has been on our show a few times, and she's really gaining. I think they have 20 or 30% of the vote now.
Yeah, they're in Parliament. That's great.
They're in Parliament.
We really look up to them as like a great example of hope and joy. Like we can do that too here.
Do you think you could have the kind of traction in the Netherlands with the Pirate Party? Could you potentially be a representative for the Pirate Party in the Netherlands in government? Would you consider that role? This could be late breaking news. This could be big news. Would you become an MP, essentially, for the Pirate Party in the Netherlands?
We have yet to make those votes within the party.
Very cagey answer. Well, speaking of politically sensitive topics, let's talk about TTIP, which is, again, something that the Pirate Party, I would think, is very interested in. This is the global trade deal. And what are your thoughts?
Well, our thoughts are on that are we don't have enough information. There's like it's such a secret. There's so much secrecy around the TTIP that we really have to like even question what does this agreement have what place does this have in an informed democracy where the citizens are supposedly we should have a vote, and how can we even have a vote if we don't even know what's in the agreement? So this is all extremely, extremely worrying, and the fact that our own democratic laws are being subjugated to like big American corporates' interests. I don't like.
Well, there's that Monsanto thing again. You have these big American companies, Monsanto being a good example. They're totally exploiting the situation in Ukraine. They're provoking a Cold War. They're trying to drag Netherlands into a war. And the Netherlands would have some history of why they wouldn't want to be involved in somebody else's war and give up all their private information and turn their agriculture into a Monsanto diseased garbage pit.
I think every new situation is a new situation and hard to compare with the past. But I think at this point in time, it's probably good to take care of our autonomy a little bit.
Ford Motor Company was pro-Nazi. Disney Corporation was pro-Nazi. They didn't go away. Disney loves TTIP. They love copyright harmonization and trademark harmonization and perpetual copyright forever. They're the same frickin' Nazis from 60 years ago. They didn't go away.
You don't have to convince me, but unfortunately, this is something that a lot of Dutch people are completely unaware of, and I think that's why more and more people are tuning into shows like yours to get that information that's just not being openly discussed in Dutch media.
Fair enough. So we have about a minute left, and just speak a little bit about cash. Your view, because cash, pros, cons. Talk about cash. What do you think?
Well, right now there's a big lobby in the Netherlands going on to not ban cash, but at least phase it out. This street behind us here is one of the main streets in Amsterdam. It's called the Overtoom. you almost can't pay with cash anywhere on that street. And this is something that's incredibly worrying to me, especially with the negative interest that's coming up. I think people have no idea how grave the consequences can be when people don't have
Confiscation of cash.
confiscation.
Once it's all electronic, you see that as a risk.
Yeah, I find this a huge problem, yes.
Right.
Because at that point, you put all of your belongings into the hands of the banks. Now, at this point in time, you might want to ask yourself, why do I have so much trust in the banks? Well, we don't. So why would you want to give them all your whole life? This is just unbelievable.
Yeah, again, here's a country like ABN AMRO, who went through tremendous difficulties along with all the banks, you know,
Yeah.
2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, well, just give us all your trust and you don't want cash, just trust us.
Yeah.
All right, well, we support your efforts to continue in educating the folks. And primarily at this point, your efforts are to educate and inform.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of the problem is that people just don't know what's going on.
And you'll soon be an MP for the Pirate Party here in the Netherlands. I think that's clear. Well, thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I want to thank our special guest, Ansela Tilia, who's part of the Dutch Pirate Party and a big advocate for getting rid of all notions that we should get rid of cash. If you want to reach us on Twitter, you can do so at Keiser Report. Until that time, Max Keiser saying bye, y'all.